Welcome, Nida. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming. Also, thanks to the earlier speakers as well. It was very interesting to hear their projects too. Like I said earlier on, my name's Nida. I'm a cardiologist working at Bart's Heart Centre. I'm also AI developer, and I'm here today showcasing our model using machine learning to develop a predictive model for stroke after transcatheter aortic valve implantation. I want to thank my supervisors as well for lending me their expertise in AI and cardiology in this project. Next slide, please. I've got a couple of animations, so I might need you to just click next a couple of times, but I'll just let you know. So cardiovascular disease, so that's diseases involving the heart and the blood vessels are the leading cause of death. Next slide, please. Valvular heart disease is a set of conditions that affect heart valves. I'll see if I can turn on a laser pointer. If not, it's essentially the valve that you can see where the white arrow is flowing up. Let me see if I can. Never mind. Right, so valvular heart disease is expected to double in incidence by the mid-2040s, and 1.4 million people aged 65 and above are already suffering with these conditions. The most commonest form of valvular heart disease is aortic stenosis. This is the most common in developed countries. Its prevalence increases with age, and as we have an aging population, already its burden is pretty high, and it's only going to grow in terms of the burden on the healthcare system over the next couple of years. Next, please. So when you have severe aortic stenosis, patients suffer from pre-hospital admissions. There's also an increased mortality of about 40% once patients develop symptoms. Now, valve replacement is the only way to prognostically benefit patients and change their trajectory. Minimally invasive approach is called transcatheter aortic valve implantation. Our North American colleagues call it transcatheter aortic valve replacement. So if you see those terms in literature, they're essentially the same procedure. This is the more commonly employed valve replacement therapy used in developed countries, as opposed to the surgical version, which is essentially opening up the chest cavity to replace the heart valve. Next slide, please. So as with any procedure, TAVI also has risks of complications, and one of the complications is stroke. This is the most feared complication by patients, and stroke care more generally, the condition and the follow-up sequelae that it has, costs the NHS and social care system £8.6 billion per annum. Now, the incidence of stroke is about 2 to 3% post-TAVI, but whilst that number may seem small, the sheer volume of TAVIs that we're doing and its increased trajectory, number of TAVIs done each year is rising. This is a serious condition. If I can, are you able to zoom into figure 3? I'd just like to talk through figure 3, if that's possible. Oh, no, go back. Okay, if we can't zoom in, that's fine. So I'd now like to talk you through this figure to just explain where, there we go, thank you so much, where the concept of stroke after TAVI is coming from. So you see the blue pipe, essentially that's our TAVI delivery system, and that is taking the valve down to this green square, which is the landing site. This is where the new valve, the artificial valve, will be securely placed over the old valve. And it is thought that as the process is ongoing in the green landing site, the new valve's being placed over the old valve, this is releasing elements which are going on to cause a stroke. And you can see panel 3, which shows essentially what it looks like with a new valve in it. However, when we put in mitigating measures to address some of this high flow of debris that's coming when we're putting the new valve in, so essentially the green square, we're actually seeing that it is not cost effective and it's not reducing stroke incidence enough. And further research has gone on to show, we can zoom out now, that stroke post-TAVI is actually a multifactorial condition, and that's what makes this prediction so complex. Artificial intelligence, it has been proven to outperform even robust evidence bases, but it has been given less attention in the TAVI literature. So that's where our work has come in. Next slide, please. So Barts Heart Centre is the largest TAVI centre in the UK, and it serves a diverse population of London and southeast of England. Next, please. Our inclusion criteria was quite open. Anyone who had a TAVI from 2015 to 2022, and we only looked at adults. The only exclusion criteria we kept was if there was unsuccessful valve deployment or they had had a prior aortic valve, because that kettle of fish is different. They have already got a different risk profile because they've already got something artificial in the site where we're going to put something else artificial. That's why we excluded those cases. Next, please. And after data wrangling, we had about 2,385 cases that we were able to use for model deployment. Next, please. And the standard approach, data collection, processing, and then our AI strategy implementation and ultimate development of the model. Yeah, we followed the standard process. All right, next, please. So we wrote it in Python. We used iterative imputer to impute missing values. What we did was we put in all of our 75 features that we had available, then used PyMRMR to select the top 20 of those. We tried to balance out the data set. You will see the breakdown a little later on, but for now, our data set was imbalanced in terms of the event rate was much lower. So we used oversampling to counter that. And then we instantiated a binary random forest classifier, and the top 2 bullet points essentially tell you the detailed specifics of our model.
Oh, Nida, I think you might have just muted yourself if you're able to come back on.
Yep, that's fine.
Brilliant, thank you.
No worries. Can we go to next slide, please? Thank you so much. So here's our data. Age at operation is consistent with our more older cohort. Most of our patients were Caucasian, but 47% were female, so we had good distribution there. Generally, in heart conditions, you don't see as many females, but in this case, we were able to get near balance. Could you click next, please? We had a multimorbid patient cohort. That is to say that each person didn't just have the one aortic stenosis condition, they often had other conditions going with it. Of particular interest is that just over 1 in 10 people had previous coronary artery bypass grafting, which essentially shows that those patients had abnormal coronary disease alongside. And then could we click next, please? Yeah. So we used smoked to oversample our event group because the incidence of stroke, as is expected, was low. The actual number was only 46. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so here I'm going to just take you through the results of the classifier. Normalized confusion matrix showed that the strongest performance of the model came from its ability to identify those who would go on to have a stroke, which was very helpful for what our task was. Sensitivity was 78%, specificity was 63%, and we got an ROC of 0.71. We wanted to better understand why it was making those predictions. And so we looked at the feature importances, and what we see here is that the most significant was actually indicator of renal disease. So that was the urea blood test reading prior to TAVI. And then we had some indicators of lung disease, something we've already heard of from in our last talk. So thank you for that. And then, of course, poor mobility as well, just as a general indicator of the patient's frailty at the time. Next slide, please. So our model is able to identify patients who will be at high risk for stroke post-TAVI. In its current form, what we found was that non-cardiac features were prominent predictors of this behind this prediction, and so therefore there is a significant voice to then having our specialist colleagues from other divisions to also have an input in the TAVI process. This has significant implications for healthcare as well. So this work will enable us as cardiovascular clinicians to include physicians from other specialties and hopefully optimize our patients to try and reduce the incidence of these complications. There's no prediction tool currently in the UK for this in terms of AI-driven insight, and so it's really great that we've got something here that we're able to bring to the plate. We have presented this work at other meetings as well, and have had really good feedback. So just looking forward to taking this further along. I'm not quite sure how much time I have left. If you could just hit the next slide, please. I was going to take a minute or two, if you can just click through to all the slide. I was just going to have a spend a minute or two talking about the sort of the broader vision that this is part of. But for now, just to make sure we finish on time, I'll leave this here. And if there are any further questions where I can bring these points up, then I'll happily do so. So thank you so much for your time.